Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Shri Vishakanitamscha. हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्ते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So we have the recording is on. No? Yeah. We have discussed about discover ourselves. Then we have discussed some stories of Krishna, and now after discussing about Krishna, now we thought if we are all together here like this, why are we here? Because we are here because of Prabhupada. So what we thought is we have to understand who Prabhupada is and why, what is that he has done for us. Today, if we are all sitting here and discussing, if we have all the knowledge in our fingertips, just open the system and you have the knowledge. Open any book, we have the knowledge. How did this knowledge come to us? It is not just it's not available, like no government has done it. Like we have our textbooks which are printed by government. There is not much of difficulty for anybody, because whoever has done it have also done it for a financial benefit, for a materialistic benefit. But what Prabhupada has done for us is totally different. It was he wanted to propagate, he wanted all of us to take go to Krishna consciousness. He wanted to take all of us to Krishna consciousness. That was his only aim. So the struggle what he has gone undergone throughout his life, and that too when we are talking about his struggle, what we have to keep in mind is not today's environment. For us, everything is available very easily. You want to send information to somebody, within seconds it will go to everybody. If you want to send, you write a book on a laptop or in system, and you want to propagate it, just send button, it will just go to all the notes known sources. But those days it was not like that. There was no printing easily. Printing was a big task. There were no emails, no phones also were very rare. Like why those days like in 80s, when I finished my degree, those days itself, if we wanted to call on a phone, it has to it was a big process, making a trunk call, then looking for, there is an operator in between, there's time limit and very costly, and many things. In those days, when the communication was difficult, Prabhupada had taken a decision to propagate Krishna consciousness to everyone. It was not an easy task. So, what is that we have discussed last week? We have discussed that because we started all this now, because now it is 125 years since Prabhupada was born. So, in 1986, he was born in Calcutta. I'm almost telling without a text in front of me, so there can be some confusions. Just bear with me. The file which I have prepared is lost. Okay. So he was born in Calcutta in 1896, and he was born to his father was a Krishna conscious person, and he wanted to make him a Radha devotee, but his mother wanted him to become a lawyer, if I remember right. He from his childhood he was a very Krishna conscious person. At the age of 6 or 8, I think, he conducted Radha Yatra with the deities given by his father. From his childhood, he had the protection of Krishna, and he did his degree in Calcutta itself. And during his college days, also, he was worshipping Krishna. The deities which his father has gifted him, he had taken them to. He left them in the home, and one day he got a dream that the deities are asking, "Why did you leave us here?" So immediately he went home, brought them, and every day he was giving prasadam to them, and then he continued his worship even when he was in his hostel, in college, in the hostel. Later, after his studies, like during his studies, he did many dramas. Those were the like today we have TVs, radios, and all that, but those days it was only drama on the stage, which through which we can propagate something in a pictorial form. So he participated in many dramas and got good awards also, because he believed in Krishna consciousness, and he acted getting himself totally involved into it. Later, when he was in his college itself, he was married. But unfortunately, his wife was not, throughout his life, his wife was not much cooperating with him. Like she was not a Krishna conscious person. And also, we can understand one thing, as Prabhupada was always, Prabhupada, his name Abhay Charan in his younger days, the name which was given by his father, he was always working on Krishna consciousness, propagating Krishna consciousness. They definitely had a lot of financial issues, lot of problems. So that was also, there was not much cooperation from his wife also, in spite of which he continued his Krishna consciousness. Mm. And during his college days, he was an admirer of Mahatma Gandhi also. So after his college, with one of his friend by name Narendranath Malik, Narendranath Malik, he went to Mayapur, and then he met not Mayapur, he met a saint from Mayapur. His name was Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. In his first meeting itself, Prabhupada Abhay Charan understood that he is a very knowledgeable person. And then he, after giving his pranamas to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, immediately Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, "You have to propagate the knowledge of preach about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu throughout the world." Then immediately Prabhupada asked him, "How do we do? Is it that easy?" Then he then Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur said, "It's not easy. Nothing. Devotion is never easy. It is struggle. Even after Prabhupada has grown up and when he has started temples also, he had a lot of troubles. Then whenever his devotees or his disciples were asking him, "Prabhupada, you are taking such a big assignment. This is very difficult." Prabhupada is used always said only one thing: being in devotion, being in bhakti is the most difficult thing. Normally, what we think is, when we look at a sannyasi, we think, "Oh, his life is very simple. He has no responsibilities. He has not much of work to do. So it is just sitting and praying, and somebody will give him food. So, and they can spend their life." That's how we think. But once we understand the total life of Prabhupada, we will understand what kind of struggle he has undergone, how much difficulty he has faced throughout his life. And so he has he has, when he has realized that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is a very knowledgeable person, he has accepted him as his guru, and he wanted to propagate his message, that he is going to give the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu throughout the world, and not only in India but throughout the world. Can somebody put in chat what is the message of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Can somebody tell me? What is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has propagated? Who is doing it? Who is doing? Yes, excellent, Harshit. Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So it is Hare Krishna Mahamantra which has to be taught throughout the world. So he was working on it. And then we have discussed about the life of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also, and about his father, about how he has brought up Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, what kind of a great devotee his father Bhakti Vinod Thakur was, and about how he has that he was a very great government official in those days, and how he used to take care of his job, his family, and sleep at 8 o'clock in the night, get up at 12 o'clock in the morning. For them, it is morning, and then start writing, documenting books. And he was running a what you call magazine. And he was, because those days the only means of communicating to public, to masses, was printing. And printing was also not a easy job, because now whatever we write, we simply type on a computer, so it's a type. But those days what they have to do is they have to first write the manuscript, and that once they write, you know what is writing a manuscript, we keep writing, we get a lot of mistakes, we correct them, again we have to rewrite them, and then finally make a neat version of it without mistakes, and then type them. Only then when we type, we can give it to the press. It was a great struggle. So he used to do all that, and he was running a press, and he was running press, and then his son Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was also supporting him in his father's mission. And then when his father was very old, there was a big conflict or big discussion between the Vaishnavas and Brahmins. Brahmins were against, saying that Vaishnavas are not the one who has to teach, it is only Brahmins who has to do. Then as his father was very old, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati has made a manual, has made a document which says that it is not by birth that we get the austerity to talk about God, but it is our character which is important. And they won in the discussion which they had with the Vaishnavas. Okay, this is what we have discussed last time. Then and the book that was being published by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur the magazine was called Sajjana Toshini, and later he was trying to translate it into 3 languages. I think the original was in Bengali, so they tried to translate it into Hindi and English also, because they were always trying to do it in English because they wanted to go international. They wanted to go international, and Hindi also, that day or today, Hindi is the most popular language in our country. So that was a time in 1921. Abhay had and his Abhay Charan and his wife had their first son. So now the family responsibility also has come to Abhay Charan. So, and he has to spread, he has to carry out his guru's mission of spreading Krishna consciousness. So for both this, they need money. So he wanted to do business so that he can earn more money and then spread Krishna consciousness. And so he knew a big businessman by name Dr. Bose, to whom he has explained all his problems. And Dr. Bose said, okay, now I understand what you are saying. If you want to earn more money, you be a what do you call this, medical representative, not representative, dealer for me, and you go to Allahabad, and then you go to Allahabad, and then from there you be a medical dealer, and then you sell there. So during this course, Abhay also learned a lot of how to prepare medicines. So he has gone to Allahabad and started his business. And while going for business also, while traveling also, he was always on the trains or on the move. Whenever, wherever he went, he was just not talking about the medicines and his business, but he was talking about the Krishna consciousness also. Mm, and in first time in 1925 he traveled to Vrindavan. That was his childhood dream of seeing Vrindavan, but he could spend just 1 or 2 days there because of his commitments. And then as he was in Allahabad, then that was a time when Kumbh Mela was conducted. I think all of you know what is Kumbh Mela. All of you must be knowing about this Pushkaras. That means once in every 13 years, every river will have their Pushkara. That means what is said is that there is a demigod by name Pushkara who comes and takes bath every year in one river, and that year everybody during that period of I'm not sure how many days, some 50 days or 20 days, that taking bath in that river will be very auspicious. So every year people go, and during that time we take bath in the river. Like recently we have Krishna Pushkara, Godavari Pushkara, Kaveri Pushkara, Ganga, every river will have. So this Kumbh Mela is also for Ganges, and that is in Allahabad. And then for during that time, lot of devotees will come to the place so that they can take bath. So during that time, in Allahabad, Abhay met lot of senior devotees, and he has taken care of them. And then he held lot of satsangs, and that's how he was always trying to learn things. He Most of the things he learned from his guru Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, from his books, what he has written, from his father's books and from his books also. And whenever he met people in Kumbh Melas and other places, he was always throughout his life he was learning from people, and he was also teaching people about Krishna consciousness. And then later his father also became very old, and his father had a desire of gifting a cow and a calf to Gaudiya Mutt. And then so he did that, and conducted a big Harinama Sankirtana at his home, and served prasadam to all the Vaishnavas. That night his father passed away, and it is because of his father's desire that Abhay Charan has become a Radharani devotee or Krishna devotee. And then after his father passed away, normally in our Indian Hindu tradition, when father or parents pass away, or anybody in the family, the person shaves his head. And so from then he never grew hair, and he remained like that. Okay. So that was a time when the political scenario was, that was in 1947-45. Those are the years when the war, like we were very seriously fighting for the independence. So it was two movements that were going on in India. One is by Mahatma Gandhi, which was Santi movement, Ahimsa movement. That means Mahatma Gandhi always believed one thing, that we should not go for himsa, we should not hurt anybody, we should not go for fight. We should only ask and then protest, and then go. And he was always going. I think all of you must be studying in your school books how Mahatma Gandhi fought for the country and how he got the independence. So Mahatma Gandhi was doing ahimsa satyagraham, and at the same time Subhash Chandra Bose, another freedom fighter, he is also a very strong person. He always believed that this kind of shanti won't give anything, but we have to fight. Physical fighting is required. So the country was, some people supported Subhash Chandra Bose, some people supported Mahatma Gandhi. But because of whatever reason it is, maybe because of the Britishers' rules or because of independence problem, because of the struggle, there was a lot of poverty and there was a lot of unrest in the country. But what Abhay always believed was that it is not the independence or Mahatma Gandhi's fight or Subhash Chandra Bose fight which is giving us problems like this. Abhay always felt that we are not understanding what is really independence. We have to understand what is independence. What is independent? Getting ourselves detached from all these material desires. We are not getting bonded by either Britishers or Indian rulers, but whom we are getting bonded is by our desires. So what is the desire? Some people want independence for the country. Really, they struggle for it. And some people enjoy, like they think, okay, if we get independence, we'll become rulers. Some people innocently follow, and this way, different people have different desires in them, and then that's how they are struggling. But the real independence will come when we understand Krishna and when we go for Krishna consciousness. Mm. So that is when he started his own book called magazine called Back to Godhead. Back to Godhead. That's what we are all always saying, back to Godhead. So we, all of us, want to go back to Godhead. We are not saying God, we are saying Godhead. That means we are not planning to go to any demigod. We want to go to the head of the gods, that is Godhead, Krishna. So that is when he started his manual, and he always tried to convince people that it is not this independence what we have to get, and mean that, which doesn't mean that he is against getting independence for India. What he means that getting independence means really understanding Krishna consciousness. Like suppose the Britisher does not allow us to pray to Krishna, then we should fight for him. Similarly, Muslims, if they try to convert us to Muslim into their Muslim, we should fight. And if we are being kept in ignorance about Krishna, then we should negotiate it. And then when he started this book about Krishna, his magazine Krishna Consciousness, everybody, all of us will have, whenever we start something, we have a logo. His logo was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sitting and preaching, and lot of devotees sitting in front of them and listening, where, and all these devotees who are all sitting, they sit in darkness, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sits in light, and there is a light which is being focused on the people sitting in the darkness. That means people who are ignorant of, means who have no knowledge of Krishna consciousness, are they are in ajnanam, they have no knowledge. So the light of Krishna consciousness, the knowledge of Krishna consciousness is being given to the people in ignorance. That was the logo what he has given, and at the bottom of the page he has put the picture of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur as a respect to the his guru. Like whenever we print any manual related to ISKCON, what do? We put ISKCON logo in one corner, and in the other corner we put Srila Prabhupada's picture. That way he has put his guru's picture on it. And the first edition, which was printed, was just 44 pages of publication. Which says that once one we forget the relationship with God, that we are totally in ignorance. Back to Godhead, and he also said that back to Godhead was an attempt to guide us, take us in the path of his Guru, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to re-establish the real relationship between the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This word, what we always use, Supreme Personality of Godhead, is something what Prabhupada has taken from his Guru, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So we should always accept him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and work towards going back to Godhead. Abhay Charan was always writing all the important issues of all the scriptures in his Back to Godhead manual. He was discussing about Satchit Ananda, and he said that because of the forgotten connection with God, that is why we are suffering from the three modes of the three sufferings: Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, and Adi Daivika. So, so he always preached to everybody that it is Harinama Sankirtana of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which will give us the real peace. He also tried. He also published about the importance of Bhagavad Gita, that would give a full description of Guru Parampara. We always, all of us know what is Guru Parampara, and he discussed about Lord Krishna, and he was always talking about the problems of death. He said, if we understand Bhagavad Gita properly, the problem of death will never come to us. And as we have, Prabhupada's wife, there was not very cooperative. He had lot of problems, but in spite of which he continued his mission. Okay, then in fact, I don't know exactly where this happened, but another incident, the way he has struggled, if I have to tell you, he has written, I think it was Bhagavad Gita only, he has given the Bhagavad Gita as it is. I have to verify because I don't have my file with me. He has rewritten some about lot of he has rewritten the book. He has given the meanings, not rewritten with the slokas. He has given the meanings, and he wanted to get it printed. And then for printing it, he required a lot of money, which he did not have. So he was roaming. He was going round and round the country, and he approached a lot of people for funds for printing, and he really struggled. And finally, here what finally he found a man. He wanted to print at least some 500 copies or so and then distribute. But he found a very rich man who has come forward to print his book, and he was very happy. The man said, okay, not 500, I'll finance for giving 1,000 copies. So he was so happy. And then when he went home, and when he wanted to bring the script, which he has rewritten, typed, and kept ready for printing, was missing. It's just missing. That's it. So this is how Krishna tested him also. And what happened to the book in the house? Nobody knows. There are either he nobody in the house valued the work of Prabhupada. So either it could be his servant or his son or anybody in the house who has sold away the book for the weight of paper. He really, it was when I heard this incident, it was really, many people say that when we read Prabhupada's books, when we read Prabhupada's life history, we get tears in eyes. I was always wondering what could there be to get tears in the eyes. So this kind of incidents, there were many in his life. There were many in his life. Like there were many in his life when he had no. So now there is somebody to, when all these days he had nobody to print. There was no way he could publicize. And then when he was ready to print the book, then he has no mail. So but he said, okay, this is how Krishna is testing me. Let me work. This is what it happened. He took it and then moved on. He never cried on it, or he never gave up, or never like normally we say, no, why all this for me, why all this for me. He never said anything like that. He continued his mission of back to Godhead. So then Abhay later went to Jhansi for a business. Not for a business, but for preaching. When he went to Jhansi, he was almost 56 years, and his by then itself he has almost he underwent a lot of losses in his business. He revived his business. He has set it to some level, and then he handed over his business to his son. He was almost leading the life of a vanaprastha. Okay, and you know what is vanaprastha? No? Vanaprastha means he is a family man, but he does not involve himself in day to day works of the family, problems of the family, the issues of the family. And then when he went to Jhansi, he started preaching Krishna consciousness, and he has impressed a lot of youth and religious minded people of Jhansi. After staying there for 10 days, again he has to come back to Allahabad, as again there was some business problem. Uh, and he was always thinking it's just not associating with printers, but his magazine has to be popularized. He wrote long essays, and then he says it's a message from Godhead, and he tried to publish it. Okay, and then and his ambition, because in Jhansi there was good response from the devotees, he always tried to, his ambition was to make the total people of Jhansi convert to Krishna consciousness. He always quoted Chaitanya Charitamrita for many things, and then gave the importance of Krishna consciousness. He prepared a league of devotees, and he wanted to start a mutt there. And then he formed a memorandum of association, and he made rules and regulations and started a mutt there, and then tried to propagate. Mm, then mm, then he even he opened the mutt. He started printing the monthly magazine Back to Godhead. This happened in 1953, and he held a very grand opening. And then they were every day doing kirtanas, and then they were distributing prasadam, and they were doing all like propagating Krishna consciousness. Mm, um, then later, after 6 months after he's staying in Jhansi, then he got information that in Allahabad his business got into serious burglary. And then there was a serious problem. Then his son came to Brindavan, this place, and then Jhansi, and requested him to come back. And he said, "You come back, we'll start the business. Go to Calcutta, and then we start." But then now that Abhay has taken the life of a vanaprastha, he refused. He convinced his son that he is no more going to do it, and he convinced him, and then he has sent his son back. And then he wanted to spend all his time in serving Krishna. And then he met a person there by name Prabhakar Misra, who was a lecturer and a medical officer in Jhansi. And he had a lot of responsibilities in the university there. And he helped Prabhupada to become, in doing all his works. And he became a good assistant to Prabhupada. Prabhupada appointed him as his secretary, and then after several months he initiated him also as, and then this Prabhakar Misra became Prabhakar Acharya. But Prabhakar Acharya, he was following Prabhupada, but he really did not take all the concepts the way Prabhupada has followed Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. This Prabhakar Acharya was not following. He was a bit independent. Like independent in the sense, when we take somebody as guru, we have to accept all his concepts and go only as per that. We cannot deviate, uh, adding our own ideas, nor we can say that what my guru is saying is wrong and this is correct, this is how it is, this is what it is. So that way it was wrong. But anyway, he was definitely helping Abai, but he had his own independent thinking. So all of them were daily going around, and then doing Nagara Sankirtana, distributing books. mm, and then he had no sufficient money. And so what he thought is, if I want to do this, I require a lot of money. So he was writing to many government agencies asking them to help, and also wrote to all his old college mates, because Abai was always concentrating on devotional service, so he had not made much money, but his friends, a lot of them must have made a lot of money. So he approached many to give him some money to propagate Krishna consciousness. So the house where Abhay was living in Jhansi was, again, it was a very big house and a very good house, but a government's house, which the governor's wife wanted for some other purpose. And so when the governor's wife wants, there's nothing that people like Abhay can do. So there was a notice from the collector that they have to vacate the office, and so Abhay had to vacate. He didn't want, because he doesn't have the financial power nor much devotees to fight with him. So he had to vacate the office, and where he has started, and from where he has started preaching also, that office building has to be vacated, and from there he moved to Mathura. So that way, whatever he started, wherever he started, he only had problems. There was no encouragement from anywhere. Everywhere, every struggle of his, it starts, moves to some time, and then go, because he had no money, and also there was lot. I mean, like, uh, it maybe it was a testing time for him also. So from there he moved to Madura. So then, why did he go to Madura? Was he then one Prabhuji by name Kesava Maharaj, Maharaj, yeah, Maharaj. He was established there, and Abhay presented him the Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya statue which he had, and then he was given one responsibility there, in New Delhi, to take care of an ashram. Like there is a Gaudi ashram, which Abhay was supposed to take care. Like when he went there, also he had no money at all. Like even he was guided there. You get onto the train, you get on from the train, take a, I mean, like you have to take a tongue in the train also. He traveled by normal sleeper class or a general compartment, and then after getting down also, to get into a tanga also, he was advised, you take a tanga in the railway station, they'll be very costly, so you walk 1 kilometer away, and from there you get onto a tanga, then you will get it free, for less price, and then come to our ashram, then we will pay you the charges. That way he struggled, because he didn't have that much of a money also with him. So he went there, and he was asked to take care of the ashram there, and also the magazine Sajjana Toshni, which was run by them then. So he agreed, and when he went and stayed in that ashram, mm, there was lot of it was not run well. There was lot of conflicts between the devotees who were staying there, and no peaceful atmosphere to do. But then he was given a responsibility, so he tried to solve those responsibilities to the extent he could do. And he wanted to pursue the magazine Sajjana Toshini. And then, as I told you, those days they were writing the manuscripts, and then once the manuscript is ready, they have to go to they have to type it and then give it to the press. So to do that, there was no typing machine also there, and Abhay also did not have money to buy the type machine. So he has written to the person to who has sent him there. So saying that this is what it is. There no, the situation here is bad. I do not have a typewriter. Please send money for a typewriter, and then every day I have to come. Whenever the magazine is ready, I have to go to the publisher, and we have to give them the paper, and then the publisher will publish. So for that I need money. All this he has written, and then they said not required. So much of money we need not spend. The publisher can understand the manuscript, so you need not type. Mm, you give the manuscript that way. So now the problem is, if he just gives it, there can be a lot of spelling mistakes. So we know when we are learning slokas also, if there is one small spelling mistake, I mean, like in writing he may not write a mistake, but when we put it in a handwriting, we know how people can misread it. So what Abhay has done is he has hired a typewriter, and then he used to type and then make the magazine, and go and give it to the publisher. And whenever he had some time in between, and he was also managing the disorganized mutt. And then he was working on this Sajjanatoshni. He also spent time preparing in Hindi translation of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Charitamrita is story of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was written in Bengali, that he tried to translate it to English. But the life in this the place where he was staying, and then it was a very tough period for him. And then giving all these manuscripts and then hiring the typewriter. Then he has written a letter, and every day, because he had no money also, every morning he used to, whenever he has to go to press, he used to go all the way walking there without eating also. Then the press person, the press owner, used to ask him and then give him breakfast, then make him. He used to sit there till the evening, finish the work, bring back the books, and then distribute the works. Even the distribution of works he used to do on the roads, wherever there were some tea stalls, wherever there were people sitting together, and then he used to go, and then he used to try selling the books. That way he was writing the books, he was getting the books printed, he was arranging for the money, he was selling the books, the total job he was doing. And then once he has written to them saying that I really require money, I am really finding it very difficult, I don't have to even to go and ask some rich people for money, I don't have clothes also. I mean, like, at least give me some money to buy two pairs of clothes. He's not asking for any rich clothes, even a clothes which are not torn. Like, he doesn't have minimum two pairs of clothes. So that is how he has written, and then he has written to the person who has sent him, say that is Bhakti Vedanta Prabhu. Then he got a reply from there saying that because they are not happy. So whenever we put a manager somewhere, there are two ways of looking at it. One is just to maintain it as it is. The other one is to improve it. So here they might have looked for just to manage it, and then unfortunately Abhay was asking for money and saying this is not there, I want this is not there, I want this, because you want to bring up the place. So they said that we don't require you anymore, so we are spending this money, you just buy two pairs of clothes for you and you can leave. So he lost that shelter also. Again he became homeless. So he just left there, and then he went to Delhi. He was moving around Delhi, like he was staying in temples, and he used to go to commercial complexes. I mean, stay somewhere. And what he was trying is, he was trying to meet people, donors, preach Bhagavad Gita. And then he never looked for any permanent residence, but he wanted to print all the books which for which he is giving the meaning, and then circulate them in people, so that people read them, and then all of us go back to Godhead. So his struggle throughout was only this. Whenever he is at home, he keeps writing. Otherwise, he keeps moving. He keeps going to donors, and they hardly anybody used to give anything. But still, he was on his own. He never gave up his mission. Like he used to get up in the morning in the cold, every throughout the year he was taking only cold water bath. And when whatever distance it can be, when he is going alone, he used to walk all the way without a proper chapel. Also in the cold, in that Delhi and other places, cold it will be in winter. In those days it was much colder, not like that, not like these days. Like Hyderabad itself, where we stay, these days it's not much cold. But in my childhood, even in Hyderabad, in winter season, it was very cold. Like we could not be, my parents, when we were children, they could not come out. They say that it was very cold. Now it is not at all there. So we can imagine what kind of, how the North India, how it will be. Even those days, he used to walk with minimum chappal all the way, and only when the magazines were printed and when he was carrying the magazines, he used to take a tanga or a rickshaw. Otherwise, he was always traveling, walking. And then with all the struggle again, after 4 years in 1952, he could come out with a next version of, let's say magazine. Every monthly or 15 days it should come, but once in a year, once in 2 years, like that it was coming. Mm, he was circulating it. Like I think I've told all this, no? Abai, he was his guru was always telling, when you have a machine, and then mission, and then when that, if that mission has to be successful, it will be successful only when the devotee is turned pure. So Abai always used to think, maybe I am not able to do all this because I have not yet become a pure devotee. And then he always tried to learn more knowledge and preach more knowledge. Mm. And then after all this struggle, he always wanted to go and stay in Vrindavan. So finally, after all the struggle, he went back. He went to Vrindavan. Uh, mm, so there also he was doing the same thing. He was trying to preach and then continue all this. Now he was almost 56 years old. By the time he went back to Brundavan, he was 56 years old. And this is the age when normally people retire, 56, 60. That is the age when people retire. But he never thought of any retirement. He was always trying to struggle, and then every day was a new life, new day, new business, new struggle for him. And he was always trying to print his magazine back to Godhead and make it popularized and sophisticated, as he always believed that those days the magazine was illustrated weekly, was a very famous magazine which was very colorful, very rich looking. So he always thought, if only I can make my magazine too look so rich, then my magazine also will be bought by everybody. So but for that, for everything, he required money. So he was commuting between Delhi and Vrindavan, and then trying to find money. And then whenever he was, even in the train when he was traveling, he was writing the manuscripts. mm, uh, and he struggled. Mm. So actually, as I told you, so we'll stop here, and then next week we'll continue, because as I told you, I lost my, I don't know, that file is missing what I have done. So next week we'll have, okay, all of you can mark attendance. Anyway, today the attendance is also very less. All of you mark your attendance. And next week, can we have our class on Friday evening? Let's talk it.